My name is Sherita Traywick. I'm a candidate for the 25th Congressional District. I am a lawyer, a pastor, community advocate, and also a community leader. I am running today because we are in heart failure. Our country is in need of strong leadership at all levels. It is important to me to make sure that our community has a voice in Washington. We are falling down on so many of the issues, whether we're talking about healthcare, whether we're talking about housing, whether we're talking about economic development, safety in our communities, education. The list goes on and on. So I made the decision that I wanted to run because, one, I have two beautiful daughters here. As well as my son. Say hello. Got to acknowledge my family, my daughters, and my husband. And it was actually my 16-year-old that's sitting here. And as we were watching all of these things roll down from Washington, whether we were talking about the dismantling of the Department of Education, or if we were talking about deploying ICE in our communities, my daughter kept saying, "Mom, do I need to be concerned about this? Should I be afraid ICE is going to pull me out of my car? What's going to happen with my education? Am I going to be able to go to college?" And the questions kept coming and coming. And as a woman of faith, as I said, I'm a pastor. I went to God. I said, "God, what we doing here? We need help." And what I heard the Lord say is, "You help. You do something." So I've been a leader. I understand government. And I said, "You know what? The current person we have, he won't open his mouth for nothing. Nothing at all. He's in Washington with 28 years of experience and will not say a word on our behalf." So I decided that I was going to put on my boots and I was going to run. So that's who I am. That's what my platform is, and that's why I'm running.
Good morning, and I want to thank the Baber and Social Justice Commission, Pastor Simmons, and all of you for being here in fellowship with us today. It is so important that our community come out and be present at these events, and we know that the Black Church is the soul of the community and where so much social justice happens. I'm Robin Wilt, and I'm running for Congress in New York's 25th Congressional District. And again, I am honored to be here with you today. I am also a mother. I am a community leader. I served on the Brighton Town Board for 8 years. And as such, I was always somebody who championed human rights first and foremost. I worked with members of the Baber Social Justice Commission in order to get us our first Section 2 compliant Voting Rights Act districts in Monroe County. And again, I was honored to work with so many people here in this room. It was truly a community effort and presaged what would happen with the Supreme Court eventually with regard to Section 2. And so it was so important to be in community and fight for our rights. But now we have those districts, and we need to make sure that we are using them. Our voice is often ignored, and we need to get out there. We need to make sure that we are holding our leaders to account, and that's precisely why I am running today, because we have leadership that has not met this moment in time. I think we can all agree that the autocracy that is happening at the executive branch for the federal government is unacceptable, and we need our legislative branch, which is supposed to be the check and balance on those powers, to step up, and not just with strongly worded letters and flowery speeches. We need to use the power that they have in order to implement real change. And so that's why I'm running, and thank you so much for having me here today.
Say thank you to these ladies for showing up, because this conversation is important, and we here at Social Justice and Baber want to hear from you. So with that being said, I'm going to open up with our first question. It reads, Rochester has a red light camera program, and it has been shut down since 2016. And when it ended, there were real concerns on the table. Concerns about which neighborhoods got the cameras, concerns about who was receiving the citations, and concerns about where the fine revenue was actually going. Low-income communities and communities of color were bearing a disproportionately share of the burden, and the data back that up. do you specifically support bringing red light cameras back to Rochester? And if you do, what would you do differently to actually address what some of the concerns that came up in 2016? And if you do not support them, can you tell us what you would do instead to keep the streets of Rochester safe? We are asking each candidate to respond in 90 seconds. And I will start right here to my left with Robin Will.
Thank you so much, Lashana, for that question. It is a very timely topic. Obviously, the number of crashes are unacceptable in Rochester. That being said, we know where surveillance is usually deployed in our communities, and it tends to be disproportionately employed in Black communities, Black and brown communities, and that's neither fair nor is it actually achieving the safety goals that we supposedly want to achieve. I know that some of the most dangerous intersections are not, in fact, located in the city of Rochester. So what are our plans to actually make sure that those intersections also are safe? And I think that we have to start with infrastructure, and I don't think it needs to be surveillance infrastructure. We have been clamoring in this community for better pedestrian and cycling pathways, and we have not received it. And we know that the majority of pedestrian and cycling traffic occurs in the city. Yes, we do not have very many protected bike lanes in the city. They do not even plow the sidewalks in the winter. And so until we improve the infrastructure that leads to crashing, I don't see how we start with surveillance and then work backwards.
It didn't work the first time. That's it. It didn't work the first time. Why are we going back to solutions that did not work? We are intelligent enough to be able to craft solutions that actually will make a difference in our community. We don't need more surveillance. I am not in favor of going back to these cameras. What I am in favor of is having community input around what will work in our neighborhoods. The people that are making the decisions need to come into circles like this, find out what's happening in the communities, and then craft solutions. Yes, I want people to be safe. Yes, I want traffic to slow down. You go through any, any streets in our urban area, any given time, you see people, they're driving fast and, disobeying traffic rules. So there is a vested interest there. But we have to go to the people and engage them. And then at the federal level, as your congresswoman, then it's my job to make sure that you have the money to implement whatever the solutions are that the community comes up with together. We have to stop having this conversation haphazardly and just saying what worked before we'll go back to. If you can't come up with a new idea, it's time to go. You're fired.
What is your plan to work with the Democratic Party to change what the Supreme Court has done with the redistricting? Now look, we have been through this before, and we have fought even the Supreme Court and turned things around. I am not hearing candidates, even some of our own people that's in office, telling us what they plan to do. They just want us to vote, 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 vote. But it's not vote for nothing. It's got to be a plan.
You obviously are someone who understands that your vote is important and is valuable. So the first thing I want to say is I just want to share a little story about my background. So I was just a regular parent living in the town of Greece with my kids. They were deciding that they wanted to arm teachers. There were a lot of school shootings happening. They wanted to arm teachers. They wanted our police officers to be able to come in and out of the schools, no checks, no nothing, just free. It was all this talk about that. I have an African-American son. He's 21 years old. That was a concern to me. What was this conversation going to look like? If they did that, what did that policy look like? When I decided that I wanted to, first I figured out where was the table of power. It was the school board. And then when I said I wanted to run, people told me, don't run. Black people don't run in Greece. We don't win in Greece. They're going to burn a cross on your lawn. But it didn't matter to me because I understood that if I could get enough people to support me, that I could win. And I did win. So you asked the question, you said, what happens? Thank you, I appreciate that. So you asked the question, how are you going to work with the Democrats in Congress? By knowing your power, by knowing that there is power with the people. There is power in numbers, by activating our community. But we can't be afraid to go to the community. You got to go where our people are. The people that are not voting, it's not because all of them aren't registered. They don't have anything to vote for. They tell me all the time. When I say, are you registered to vote? They say, for what? Who am I voting for? What am I voting for? So I take it as my responsibility to be the type of candidate that inspires you, that want to vote. I respect the fact that all of you that stood and bled, I stand on your shoulders. This is a responsibility. If we don't stand up and take it seriously and bring some wins home, our civilization is gone. My baby right here, that's 5, she doesn't have a future. So I'm hungry and I'm desperate because I have to build for her. So if they want to try in Washington not to work together, they better be ready for a fight because ain't nothing harder to deal with than a mama that's mad.
Obviously, there's a lot of fire in this room around this question because this is one of basic humanity. It is one of basic human rights. I thank you for your question. And I'm going to go back to my history here because when we were fighting for 5 majority black districts, at least 5 majority black districts in Monroe County, we did not have the vast majority of the community siding with us. As black people, in order to get our due, according to Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act, we had to organize amongst one another. And I have been extending that organization out to the entirety of Monroe County because we need more black representation within the Democratic Party. We do not see black representation at the levels at which we are represented demographically in this community. And there are lots of reasons for that. I think a lot of people are disillusioned with the Democratic Party, and why wouldn't they be? Because we are supposed to be the opposition party. We're supposed to be the one protecting our communities from the predations of this government, this man in the White House who has come for our communities time and time again, yet we have not seen the fight. And so I have some structural changes that I would like to see, including increasing the number of seats on the Supreme Court, and also increasing the number of seats in Congress. We have not increased the number of seats. We have not lifted that cap on the number of representatives we have in Congress since 1929. But we used to do it periodically. We used to do it on a regular basis. So our democratic structures are broken right now and designed not to make sure that we do not have the representation we deserve. So that's what I would do.
Thank you so very much for the question.
Community do not vote for various reasons. They don't think they have anything to vote for. They don't think it's gonna make a difference. And we need those younger people to vote and to come out and push you guys forward, so to speak. So what are your suggestions on what we can do to get these young moms and dads and uncles and nieces and nephews to get out and vote properly?
I think what we need to do is meet voters where they are. And we need to meet youth in the communities where they are. And that's something that we're not doing enough of. I think a lot of people don't even understand that you can pre-register your 16 and 17-year-old to vote today. And then when they turn 18, they will be automatically registered in the next election that they're eligible to vote in. And if people don't even know that, how are we supposed to create the muscle memory to make sure that people get out to the polls when we do have an election? we're not doing enough, and I think that is incumbent on the people in office, on the people who are organizing in our communities, like around the issue of, just losing Section 2 of the Voting Rights Act. But we do not engage in enough civic education. We've lost sight of the importance that people died and bled for this vote. And if your vote didn't matter, they wouldn't be working so hard to steal it, to suppress it. So we need to make sure that the youth have that message too. You need to know your history.
But should they have that in the schools? I'm saying for them to learn that. I'm just saying. I mean, even the sororities or whatever. I mean, they always ask them to.
If we can just have 1 second so we can allow her
Yeah.
the rest of her time, so I'm gonna give you the last couple of seconds, and then we'll get all the candidates to speak. No, you're good, I appreciate you.
No, I agree that it should be in the schools. But you know why it's not in the schools? Because it doesn't serve the establishment for it to be in the schools. So that's why it's incumbent on all of us in community to make sure that our youth know the importance. And we take advantage of all the tools out there to make sure that they are registered. Pre-register your kids. If you have a 16-year-old that is in your life, make sure that they are pre-registered to vote today. And I have forms with me, so we can get that done.
All right. So again, another great question, Miss Sister Judy. So, oh, yes, you and I want to address both points. So I'm a product of urban suburban, right? I graduated from West Arundecoit. I never was at a school. All right now. I never was at a school where from K all the way to 12. They were never going to teach me my history. They were never going to make sure that I was educated, informed, or anything. Yeah, 50.
Okay, so it was before you. I was 63, so we did have it.
Okay, all right. So for me, my school was never going to make sure that I understood the importance of voting. So I'm just saying that it is time for us to, like Cleanda said, to take it back to the home. And I went into the voting booths with my parents and my grandparents. But when I talk to young people, because I'm out here, I'm at McDonald's, I'm at Walmart, I'm at the churches, I'm at S&Ts, I'm everywhere. I'm at the hospitals where they work, where they're patient care techs and food service workers and environmental service workers. If you check my social media, you see I am out here talking to people. And a lot of what I hear from our young people is nobody ever told them about it, not even their parents. So it's the schools, they're missing the boat, but the parents, the grandparents. So we have to take the conversation back. We have to go back. So you said, where do we meet them? Just any young person that you talk to, asking them, do you know what it is to vote? Some of them don't even know how to fill out the paper. And I have offered to fill it out for many of them. You know, they exactly. Issues with reading. I had one guy, he was like, yes, I'll fill it out when I get home. I said, let's do it now. It's quick. Let's sit here. He was like, I don't feel like reading nothing today. You know what that meant. I knew exactly. I said, you know what? You ain't got to read nothing. Let me read it to you. I will help you. So we have to realize that is a problem in our community that we can address, and it should be the candidate's responsibility. I don't agree with that. I think that it's the community and the candidate. If you're out here asking for people's vote, you should take the time. I probably could be farther ahead in having more signatures and have met more people, but because each person that I meet with, I see where they are, and if I got to sit there for 40 minutes and talk to them, read to them, write for them, I do it, because this is bigger than if we make it to Congress or not. If that's the only goal, then we don't deserve to be elected. Sorry to speak for you, but seriously, because our community is in trouble, and whether you got one or two black faces up there, if we can't stop and see the pain and deal with it right there, then we don't deserve your vote. I'm sorry. And I don't. How about that?
About accountability and how and I'm going to go in a specific order, and how we want to hold our elected officials accountable. I think it's a very fair question for these candidates to ask, because they're asking for our vote. And so
Yes.
what they perceive to be accountability is information you do want to have, right? So whether they're elected or not, they should be able to share what accountability looks like, because that can then determine how they may hold themselves accountable if elected into office.
You know, this is what we need to have. This is democracy, where we can have a healthy conversation. When we talk about accountability, this is accountability for me. This is why I'm running, because I'm not happy with what we have right now. Joe Morelli does not represent me. He does not represent my community. So instead of pointing the finger at Joe and everything he's not doing, I said, you know what? I can either do that, or I can stand up and step up to the plate, because I feel like I have a voice in our community, and I know what our community needs, and what I don't know, I give my community an open door to tell me what they need. These people are elected. That means you go and you vote for him. Where is your power in not voting for them? We have to let our people know that. That is your power. Take your power back. They don't have to continue to be elected. They're not doing the right thing. We have never been a people that have been afraid of change. I don't know where this fear comes from. The Bible says, fear not, thus saith the Lord. If we got to change, we got to change. And if they got to go, they have to go. And as far as holding our community accountable for the things that it does, we have to realize that there are different reasons why people are doing the things that they're doing. It is not a one-shot deal. Okay, we got to make sure that we are electing leaders that are willing to understand that it's education, it's poverty, there are all kinds of reasons why we are in the position that we're in. But if we don't have the resources, we don't have the voice at the table, people see us as invisible, they see us as, oh, I'm going to traipse through during election season. You ask the question, what are people doing now? I'll tell you what I do. I work in public benefits. You know what that means? When you lose your food stamps, I'm the one that helps you through a fair hearing. When your Social Security gets denied, I'm the one that helps you with an appeal. When you don't have food, you call our ministry. We deliver to the senior buildings. That's what I'm doing and have been doing 20 plus years, boots on the ground. Somebody asked me the other day, are you afraid of Joe? Are you afraid of your career? I'm not afraid of nobody but God. We are in a position where we cannot be at odds with each other. It doesn't matter, Democrat or Republican. Whoever said it, I don't know who said it, but we got to work together. We have to work together to fix this. Please, one second. Stand up, please, Ava, stand up. Please look at my baby. 5 years old. She needs a chance. A freaking chance. And all these questions. Are you going to do this? Are you going to do that? We need a chance. You're going to have to take a chance on somebody. You're going to keep on rolling on Joe? Or are you going to roll on two women up here that stand strong and stand 10 toes down for you? Me or her? That's your choice.
Wow. I am so thankful for this conversation, because I don't think we ask enough whether the party that we're enrolled in is doing everything that they can for us. And I think that is what is at the heart of the question. Accountability to the people who say that they have our best interests in heart. But what are people doing to demonstrate that they have our best interests at heart? You can't come into our community only around election time and ask for our vote when you have not delivered the results. And that is why I am running for office. My opponent has not delivered the results. And the reason why we see the violence in our community that we see is the failure to invest in communities of care, the failure to invest equitably in communities that are black and brown. And so when somebody is asking for your vote, you ask them what they have done for our community lately. I know that I have been out in this community making sure that we have our voting rights in place. Even before the Supreme Court ruled, I knew that was essential. And because we acted as a community in solidarity, we have those black voting districts, those majority black voting districts. And on the state level, we have the John Lewis Voting Rights Act. On the state level. So we were able to implement that policy before the Supreme Court ever did anything, by standing together in community. And yes, when Cleanda talks about holding ourselves accountable, that's what it looks like. Because no elected official is going to save you. It takes us to save ourselves. So please join me.
About the question that we would like to end this chat and chew with is related to the youth and the future of this city. So Rochester has some amazing, incredible young people. Baber knows I am the mother of one of them. I hear Sherita talking about she's the mother of one of them. Cleonda's the mother of one of them. Robin is the mother of one of them. Mercedes, I can give shout outs to everybody. So I thank all the mothers and parents, dads, I didn't forget y'all, in this room that are raising the young people in this community. We also have schools that are underfunded. I know there's some conversations about what that budget looks like and how the money is being spent. However, the bottom line is they are being underfunded. It definitely is not enough safe places for our kids to actually go after school. And I know, again, these are things that people are working on, but we have to acknowledge there are not enough. We also have to remember that too many young people just don't feel safe, right? Right here in Rochester, they just don't feel they have anywhere safe to go. And so they don't feel like that investment is really going back into them. And so that is a justice issue. It is also a practical one, right? So because how we treat our young people is a reflection of what this community is going to see in the future, we want to ask a question in regards to that. So specifically, what does it mean to really invest in the young people that are sitting in this room and that are out in our cities, not just with programs, but ensuring that they have somewhere safe to go as well? So what would you do specifically to fight for those type of investments? What would you like to see change specifically in the Rochester community for our young people? And I'll start with Robin in that dialogue.
Thanks for that question to the commission. I'm really impressed with all the work you do and the many facets of that work, because when we talk about social justice, it is intersectional. But at the core of that is how we treat our youth. One of the primary planks of my campaign is to triple Title I funding. And if we know anything about how school funding works, we know that a certain percentage comes from the state level, a certain percentage comes from local property taxes, and then the remaining portion comes from the federal government. And communities like Rochester, the Rochester City School District, get more of the benefit from those federal dollars because of the wealth index, because we have a larger proportionate number of students who do not have the resources that we see in the suburbs. So just by dint of increasing that funding, we will help our Black and brown communities. Those who see less income and are more likely to suffer the predations of poverty. And so that is one of the key planks of my campaign, to make sure that we triple Title I funding. But in terms of investment, we are over-indexed on enforcement and policing our communities, and do not invest enough in care. We do not invest enough in housing or any of the predeterminate of health, housing, nutrition, but primarily those community things. What is the difference between the city of Rochester and any suburban community? It is investment in the community as a whole, investment in recreational resources, investing in safe housing, investing and to make sure that we don't have food deserts. That's what we're lacking. And so we need to make sure that our federal dollars are spent equitably, and that's what we're not seeing. We see primarily investment in our suburban communities and not in its urban core, and that's just not fair, and it's not right, and it is stealing direct.
Thank you for the question. I'm not giving any more money. I'm not. We need an audit. Where is the money going? We cannot continue to throw money at a problem. If I have a 21-year-old son. He comes to me, Mom, I need gas money today, tomorrow, the next day. Where was the money I gave you yesterday? How come your gas can't? I know gas prices have raised, but I gave you at least $25, bruh. What happened to your gas? I'm not going to continue to throw money at a problem without accountability. We need transparency. Where is the money going? Why doesn't it line up with the results? We don't need to keep throwing more money at the problem. I also would partner with community organizations that are doing the work, that are boots on the ground, that are helping communities and helping families bridge the gap with childcare, like Cleanda said. When it was time when our church was on East Main Street, and the summer came and kids were running around the neighborhood, and we're like, you don't have anything to do, you just ripping and running the streets. You know what we did? We started a free summer camp. We got no funding for it. We needed to have this to have funding, and then that to have funding. So I said to my husband, I said, you know what? If we got to cook the food ourselves, we used a parking lot, and we put a turf down, and them kids ran around, but we gave them something to do. There are a lot of community organizations that are doing the work to help bridge the gaps. I want to partner with those. I want to invest in those organizations that don't get the grants from the big organizations, that don't have the connections, but are doing the work. Also, making childcare affordable. People cannot afford to put their children in childcare, and that is a big problem. We need that. So when I talk about where at the federal level giving money, I want to put the money where the results are. And if you can't show results, then don't come over here, because we got nothing for you.